Cause I'm back in my zone now. Cause I'm back in my zone now.
How's it going, everyone? This is Addison Ohms with Zone Student Athlete Consulting, bringing to you another Z6. Last week we had on Jordan Kanashik, linebacker for the Washington football team. Had some great insight, some great knowledge for parents and young kids going through the recruiting process and developing their bodies into what it needs to be in order to become a football player at the next level or athlete at the next level. This week we have on NFL wide receiver Chad Hansen, one of my best friends, one of my former roommates in college. Chad's been in the league for years. Chad has a very unique story of how he ended up in the league, in his college story and his journey, and it's just amazing. I can't wait for him to share with you guys. Chad, thank you for coming on, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of course, dude. And so, what we do here on the Z6 is we give a bunch of advice to young kids and parents about development, recruiting, and branding. The name, image, and likeness thing is going to be happening in college within the next couple of years. California is actually going to be the first state to pass it. And so that's why branding is such an important piece for high schoolers to learn, because they're going to be able to profit off their name, image, and likeness once in school. I'm sure where you were at one point in college, you could have definitely gotten some deals going. So it's an exciting time, and it's just great to hear your insight as an NFL football player of how branding has helped you, and then also hearing your incredible story of your development in your recruiting process. So without further ado, first question, okay, tell me about your recruiting process. How did that go for you?
Yeah, so my recruiting process was kind of obsolete. I did not have really any interest at all through my high school career. I was a really late bloomer, and so coming into high school, I was 5'6", 130 pounds. So I'm 6'2", 6'2" and a half now. So I grew, quite a bit while I was in high school, and so I didn't really hit that growth spurt until my junior year. So I was good as an athlete when I was young, and then everybody started hitting their growth spurts, started maturing, and I was left behind a little bit, and that was extremely frustrating to me. So, but looking back now, I think it kind of helped me because I wasn't the best athlete. I couldn't rely on athletic ability. I had to hone in on my technique. I had to put in hours, getting, catching the ball and doing different drills and stuff, because I had to be the best technician because I wasn't the best athlete. And so honestly, I think that helped me quite a bit, but it did not help in the recruiting process. And even through my junior year, I wasn't, anything crazy special in high school. I split time with another receiver. So I didn't get that many plays. I didn't have that many stats my junior year, and that kind of hurt me, I think. And then going into my senior year, I finally started weight training and kind of grew into my body. And, that's kind of when I went off. And I had, I think I was the leading receiver in the county. I had really good numbers, but it honestly was kind of too late. Really, like I was told, from different coaches and stuff like that, hey, we think you're good, you have good numbers, and we just don't have any scholarships left, because a lot of people, they give away their scholarships to, juniors. They don't really have any available scholarships later in the recruiting process. So I ended up, actually, I was going to probably walk on somewhere. Honestly, I didn't really know where. I was going to try to find a coach to give me a walk on opportunity somewhere at a big D1 school. I was, because I really felt like I could play at that level, and I wanted to compete at the highest level. And then, out of the blue, really, it came out of nowhere. Literally the last week before signing day, I got a call from Idaho State. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know where they were, and they offered me a scholarship because somehow they saw my film. And they offered me a scholarship, and I was like, hey, it's a scholarship, I'm not gonna have to pay for school. I don't know where Pocatello, Idaho is, but it's where I'm gonna be. So I decided to go there for my freshman year and play there, and it was a very different experience coming from California going to Idaho, Pocatello, Idaho. So it wasn't, I was kind of under recruited, but I get that because I wasn't anything special up until my senior of high school. So
Right. And then, on top of that, I think you explain how you got to Cal, because that's another great, really interesting deal there.
yeah. So after my freshman year at Idaho State, I was able to during training camp, I was able to earn some playing time, and then throughout the year, I think the last half of the season, I was one of their starting receivers, and I put up some good numbers. I think I had 500 yards and maybe 5 touchdowns or something like that as a freshman. And I thought, hey, those are good numbers. I'm gonna, I know that I could play at a higher level. Pac-12 was always my dream because I grew up watching, um, USC, UCLA, Oregon, these Pac-12 teams, and I wanted to play in the Pac-12, and I thought I was good enough to play at that level. And so after my freshman year at Idaho State, that spring semester, I made the tough decision to transfer. And I really thought it was going to be easy. I thought it was going to be like, hey, I'm emailing coaches, probably 15, 20 coaches a day, calling if I find their numbers anywhere and all that stuff. And it was extremely tough situation. And for some reason, one of the GAs at Cal saw my high school film and reached out to my high school head coach because he thought that I was a sophomore in high school. He reached out to my high school head coach, said, "Hey, we're interested in this guy that you have, Chad Hansen." And my high school coach didn't tell him, "Hey, he's graduated." He just said, "Here's his number, call him." So he called me and he's like, "Hey, this is Cal. We're interested in your film." And he asked me if I was going into my junior season. I was like, "Well, no, I just finished my freshman year." He said, "Oh, I thought you were a sophomore." And so his wires got crossed, but uh, so it just kind of got lucky with him calling me, reaching out. And so I was like, "Hey, I'm actually transferring. Here's my film from my first year in college. Here's my stats." And so he went to the head coach. They said, "Hey, we like this guy. We don't have any scholarships." So it's kind of the same thing I ran into in high school where they had given away their scholarships. There's none left, so that was kind of tough. So they said, "Hey, you can walk on here. We can't guarantee you anything, so you have to get into school first." And Cal, for anybody that knows, is a tough school to get into. And so I applied not really expecting anything, and I got in. I don't know how, but I got in. And so I was supposed to show up after training camp because I wasn't supposed to be on the initial 100-man roster at Cal. And they were just going to kind of hide me, and I was going to have to redshirt because I was transferring. And so I was home here working out and running hills actually. And I get this call from Cal saying, "Hey, one of our guys got hurt first day of training camp. We need you to come." This was my first year, my redshirt freshman year. I was like, "Well, shoot, what? Yeah, fine." So I packed one suitcase, drove up there, and that's kind of how I started at Cal. It was just kind of a whirlwind. Had one suitcase, didn't really know where Berkeley was, and it was a 5-hour drive, and got there, and the next day I started practicing. So it was kind of a wild transition from high school to Idaho State to Cal. It's kind of a crazy journey.
Totally. No, and that just shows your recruiting process didn't end in high school. And that's what I think it's great kind of everyone we've had on, it's sort of been a luck, not necessarily luck of the draw. I mean, we think it's luck of the draw, and it is to a certain extent, but it's all about just keep pushing and grinding, and eventually that opportunity will come to you. I mean, you do have to have the talent, and you do have to be the type of person to, be recruitable and be able to get recruited by a school. But at the end of the day, never say never. There's always going to be an opportunity out there for you. And I just think that like your story is just one of the most unique ones, because it kept going. And then you had an insane career at Cal, and then you got drafted 4th round, right? Amazing. So Chad went from you could barely get a walk-on, go to Idaho State. You can walk on here. We think you're in high school. Okay, we'll take you as a transfer walk-on to 4th round draft pick, get, a career in the NFL, and you've been in the NFL ever since. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Okay, so, we heard about, you were, when you were young, you were undersized, you had to be a technician, that was part of your development. You didn't start lifting till your senior year of high school. I mean, talk about your development as an athlete. I mean, even from college to pros, how has that gone for you?
Yeah, and that's one thing that I kind of wish I had done more when I was in high school is I see the post that you put up on Instagram, and it's great. I mean, like, take your body so seriously, because you might feel good, but that stuff will catch up to you. So if you need to be strength training, you need to be recovering correctly, all that stuff, because if you want to play a long time, and even through college, guys' bodies break down, they get injured, all that stuff. It's important to take care of your body when you're younger in high school. And that's one thing that I wish I had known, and I did. And that's another thing, like, strength training is big. Like, you need to create that base, and it helps with athleticism, it helps with injury prevention, it helps with all that stuff. So eating right, recovering, lifting weights, all that stuff is extremely important when you're in high school. And but yeah, I as an athlete, I was good when I was young, and then I went through that phase where I wasn't maturing at the rate that everybody else was. And like I said, that was the part where I had to become a technician. And that's important, like, because I always had that vision of playing in college. Like, I wanted to play college football. I didn't know what level. Obviously everybody wants to play at the highest level, and I wanted to play in the Pac-12. But when I was a freshman, sophomore, even junior in high school, it's like, this kid doesn't have it. Like, he's not overly fast. He's not overly explosive. He's not overly big or anything. So, I wish I kind of took that more seriously, and created a good base for when I did eventually sprout up and grow into my body. I wish I had that athletic base, that would have propelled me along, even more in my career. So.
No, that's I think that's key. Is I mean, kids nowadays, they're definitely more on top of it, strength and conditioning wise. But when it comes to, just how you treat your body overall. So now the strength and conditioning stuff, everyone now has their own strength and conditioning coach. Like, high schoolers, think they're pro athletes in that sense now. But, part of it is getting with the right guy who knows what he's doing. And also a huge thing is understand the next part is recovery. Like, who's going to recover most? And it's not just, going into a cryo chamber and or floating and spending a ton of money on doing that, because that may not help you. You kind of have to navigate your recovery and what helps you. And like, as someone, who has been through, playing so much football, you obviously can attest to that. You know what's right for you and what's not. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, yeah, you're definitely right. And I think that's a big thing too. Like, you can't just, go somewhere, pay money, and expect it to be done for you. the recovery thing, like you were saying, you have to do it all the time, and you have to be accountable for your own body, really. I mean, nobody cares about you more than you, so you have to make sure that you're on top of what you're doing. And honestly, like, as a high schooler, it's honestly just as important as when you get older, because it all catches up to you. Even though you feel fine now, it's going to catch up. And if you have dreams of playing in college or in the NFL, like that's something that needs to be addressed as soon as possible, really.
Right. No, I really appreciate you expanding on that, because it does sound crazy because it's just high schoolers, but I mean, it is so competitive. It is so incredibly competitive, and you need every advantage you can get. Okay, so number 3, you're a pro athlete. You've been in the NFL for a while now. How important is branding as a pro athlete? And this is something that high schoolers can learn from you, with the whole name, image, and likeness coming to play soon.
Yeah, I mean, branding is huge. I mean, you see these NFL players, with the biggest brand, like, you can spout off the top 5 players that you can think of off the top of your head, because their brands are so big. And when their brands are big, that's just more income coming into their pocket, off the field. And that's really what it's all about, creating that passive income off of a brand that you build while playing football. And that's another thing, like high school. Now that you say California's going to pass that, I mean, that's huge for high school athletes transitioning to college athletes. I mean, name, image, and likeness is going to be a huge thing for college athletes going forward, and it's really going to change how kids are recruited, kids are choose their colleges, all that stuff. Branding is going to be a big deal when you're choosing your college, and really it should be, because it's going to be passive income that really is going to work without you having to do anything. So
Right. No, and I love you're the first one to mention something like that, how it's going to affect the college football landscape, because no one knows. It's so brand new. And so a kid may be, kids definitely are going to be choosing schools now based on, bigger market, things like that. But now maybe schools are going to be looking at kids like, who's got the bigger brand? Are these 2 athletes on the same level? Okay, they have the same grades, they have the same skill level, but who has the bigger brand? And no one really knows how the income is going to be dispersed. There's thoughts that it may be dispersed evenly amongst the team. Maybe this person who has the deal or endorsement gets a little bit more. No one truly knows. But if that's the case, then you want the guy who can bring in more money for the rest of the team, because then the rest of the team's happy. So I love that, and it is so important. Gosh, Chad, you're a really smart guy. Okay, number 4, all right? What's the biggest regret that you've had in your athletic career so far? Whether it be through your development, through branding, through your recruiting process. What is it?
I think the biggest regret that I have as an athlete so far is losing confidence in yourself and your abilities and stuff, because there's low points as you go through as an athlete. Everybody that has played sports knows that, and you go through rough patches, you go through all that stuff. And really that's one of the most important things, is having that self-confidence as an athlete, because you can't perform for your team or for yourself if you're not confident in what you can do. And I think that's one thing that I've learned over the years, is that is really the biggest thing, having that self-confidence. But yeah, I would say that is really the biggest shortcoming that I can think of in my
Yeah.
life.
And I will say this, I didn't know that was the regret of because when you play, like Chad, you're calm and you're cool, but when you play, you're a real, you tell people, like I am better than you. You kind of have that mindset, and it's amazing to see. And it's I remember, you kind of taught me to play with that mindset, because I had, I had never really seen someone not only dominate dudes, but also just look them in the eye and be like, I am better than you. That is incredible. And of course, last year with the Texans, you did that, and I'm like, there he goes. There's typical Chad, fired up, like absolutely amazing. And so that's great to hear. That's great to hear that was one of your regrets, but it seems like you've done a good job of sort of, working on that and letting that, transpire on the field.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And that's
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, that's one thing that, that early in my NFL career, I let that creep into my mind, and, it's tough not to, but that's something that you really have to work on to keep that away. So
love it. Absolutely love it. All right, now number 5. How would you rank the 3 between recruiting, branding, and development? I'm interested to hear because everyone has had kind of mixed answers.
Development as an athlete.
Yep, development as an athlete.
So I think I would put that as number 1, because you can't have a brand, you can't be recruited if you don't focus on becoming the best athlete you can be, and the best football player, the best basketball player, the best anything, because without that there's nothing else. So first of all, I think that would be number 1. Number 2, let's see here. I think maybe, I mean, going back to maybe what we talked about earlier, maybe brand, because if, like what you said, I don't know how, colleges are going to go about it, but I mean, if you have a good brand, that helps with the recruiting process, that helps, but I guess I would go brand next and then recruiting after, because, they could come after you for, for that brand, but, so that could be huge in the coming years.
Totally. And I love the way your mind is working, because that's how I try to, when I'm educating people, some of the people that I work with, I try and tell them, hey, this is a big deal. Like, this is something that you're going to need to focus on potentially, because we don't know what's going to happen on the line. It's better to be prepared than not be. And, I don't know if you saw USC's deal when it comes to name, image, and likeness that's out there. It's, the Boulevard, and they're all about, the Hollywood Boulevard type of thing. And they had a video last year go out, and it looked like it was a straight music video. One of the players on the team, he raps, and they kind of did a music video with the stars. They went to the Chinese amphitheater. They did everything, and kind of formed it as a music video. And so, being able to display those talents now sounds crazy, but it may be something that can help you in the recruiting process down the line. And when it comes to recruiting with the name, image, and likeness thing from a college perspective, they're still trying to figure that out. So, all right, Chad, last question. All right, I'm always interested in this one. If football wasn't your zone, what would be your zone?
That's tough. That's tough. I'm a very competitive person, maybe to a fault. But I think it would have to be, something in the competitive realm. I mean, I'm interested in business, and that, I guess that would be a good zone, because that's extremely competitive. So I think that might be my zone, but honestly,
Awesome.
It could be something else. I don't know. We'll see.
No, exactly. And that's what I love, that's what I love about this question is no one really knows. Like, especially, all you guys in the NFL, you're still, you haven't thought about that yet, because this is your career right now. And so, and when you're a high school athlete, you're trying to play college football, when you're a college football player, you don't really know, or just an athlete in general, in a high level functioning athlete, you don't really know what you're going to do after. And that's okay. As long as you keep that competitive mindset, and you keep what has made you such a great athlete. Obviously the world is your oyster.
That's what's special about what you're doing, because you, after being such a high level athlete and competing, starting for 4 years after being a walk on, which is absolutely insane, at a Division I Power 5 school, Pac-12, that's crazy. But I think it's because you're able to still be in that realm of football, but you love helping people and you love being able to do that, and you've turned it into a business, and you've turned it into something that's going to grow exponentially, and it's going to be fun to watch. It's super cool. But I just wanted to shout you out and say that. So
Chad, thank you. Endorsement from Chad Hansen. I've made it. I have absolutely made it. Thank you so much, Chad. It totally means a lot. I mean, like, seriously, I'm trying to just help people, like I said last week, decrease that margin for error, because the margin for error is huge if you're not one of those 5-star, 4-star type of dudes. And but I really appreciate it, dude, and especially with you, about to go to OTAs and do all that stuff. It's incredible for you to take the time out, and so really appreciate it, dude. And I know for a fact that I will be seeing you soon.
All right, man. Cause I'm back in my zone now. Cause I'm back in my zone now.